Welcome, everyone, to the Weird World Podcast. Did I say that right?
You say weird word.
Weird World Podcast. Welcome, one and all. I'm Dean.
Oh, I'm Jack.
I'm Carrie.
Today, Carrie is going to bring us a story from her bottomless bag of psychological weirdness. Seems to be her thing.
I don't have a bag of anything.
You
well,
do.
that's not true, but I don't have a bag of psychological weirdness.
Yes, you do. You have an endless supply of things that are weird in the mind, or at least things that are in the realm of cognition and such. And today, Carrie's going to tell us a story of
Paul Ingram.
Oh, and why is that weird?
Well, because we have touched on similar topics in the False Confessions episode. And then we did dabble at one point with doing a Satanic Panic episode.
Oh, we will. So this is basically a Satanic Panic episode.
Yes.
Of potentially many, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Because, as we know, there is an endless, bottomless bag of Satanic Panic stories,
Sadly,
unfortunately.
There are quite a few.
Yeah.
All horrifically weird.
Well, this story, it occurred in Washington State in the Ingram family in 1988. This actually became the first case where a person actually pled guilty to satanic ritual abuse. Surprising, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
His name was Paul Ingram. He was a sheriff's deputy in Olympia, Washington, and a local official in the Republican Party. He had two daughters, Erica, she was 21, and her sister was 18. Erica...
Her sister was named what?
Julie.
Julie.
Erica had made an accusation which came about from discussions she had at church camp. She had already, so this was 88, she had already accused a man of attempted rape 5 years earlier. It was reported to the police and they investigated it, but it was revealed that this man had only given Erica a ride and put his hand on her knee.
Close enough to Erica.
Mm-hmm. And in 1985...
Well, that can't be a good thing, putting your hand on the knee of a 13-year-old or a 12 or 11-year-old.
Yeah, still put him on a list.
He should be
16.
You said 5 years ago.
Yeah, she's 21 now.
Oh, super confused.
21 minus 5 is 16.
Okay. I thought you said she was 16.
No, her sister was 18. Anyway, and then in 1985, the younger sister, Julie, had claimed to have been sexually abused by a neighbor because her stories were very inconsistent. They weren't able to prosecute the guy. So, like I said, in 1988, so that's just kind of their background.
I guess.
That's their hobby.
I don't know.
Well, they both had alleged one incident of
Sexual improprieties.
outrage.
So, back in 1988, Erica went to a Pentecostal youth retreat for teenage girls.
That was the worst 3 words
Yeah.
I've ever heard.
Well, we have a bias, but called Heart to Heart.
Oh, I take it back. That was the worst 3 words.
Heart to heart. Okay.
Well, I got 3 more disturbing words for you. A woman with prophetic and discernment powers told Erica,
So a psychic.
I guess.
A Christian psychic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not psychics, they're prophets, right?
Yes.
Told Erica that she had been sexually abused by her father.
So just flat
Hold
out,
up.
we're at church camp. I'm a Christian psychic. I got my little routine. I'm guessing people's names and afflictions, maybe healing some people. I don't know exactly what they do. Predicting the second coming, probably.
Yeah. Doomsday.
And just, changing the date every time it doesn't happen. And then suddenly you throw out, oh, and by the way, you in the third row, you've been sexually abused by your father.
What's discernment powers? I should have looked
She
it
can
up.
figure things out. She can tell things.
She's very perceptive.
Yes,
Is that?
yes.
What the fuck?
Psychically, I
Yeah.
assume.
Well, surprisingly, Erica had no memories of being abused by her father, but she went into counseling. She found a therapist, which, is a reasonable thing to do.
Are the scariest 4 words.
Yeah.
For anyone who's thinking actually anyone. And she found a therapist.
And the therapist that she went to used recovered memory therapy
Okay.
to attempt to restore her memories of the abuse that she had clearly repressed.
Mm-hmm.
Because the prophetic discerner told her that she had been abused. So, of course, she was able to recover memories of satanic ritual abuse involving her father that started when she was about 5 and continued to a year before this.
Yeah.
So from 5 to 20. Later, she remembered that the abuse continued until just before she left home. And she remembered that she had caught a sexually transmitted disease from her father and had been treated for it by 2 doctors.
What the fuck?
2 actual doctors. That is something
Would
that
have
could be
records.
verified.
And
Would have
tracked.
But
records.
for some reason, she had to go to
receipts.
California for one, and one was there in Olympia.
What?
She had to go.
Yeah.
California doctors when she was, and so who took her? You know, who brought her back?
Well, there's more.
Ay, ay, ay.
So they also accused her father's...
Wait, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So she's 21 at a Christian youth camp?
Yeah.
Was she a counselor or is she one of the
I don't know.
kids?
Who
I don't know.
Oh, God.
21?
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
You'd think to those people, they'd be all old fashioned. They'd want her to have 6 kids by now.
Yeah. I don't know.
No, I mean, the 21-year-olds aren't going to
It's
youth
not
camps.
youth.
Maybe she
Well,
was a counselor or
yeah.
something like that.
Hope
Yeah.
not.
It didn't say that, but
Okay. Well,
yeah.
that's-
Either way,
Who
she's
knows?
there and bad things are
Okay.
happening.
Yeah. So one day, probably the day that these allegations were made, Paul was called into his boss's office. You know, he's a sheriff's deputy, and his boss tells him, "You've been accused by your daughters of rape."
Daughters plural?
Yeah, because Jane, or what was her name? Was it
Julie.
Julie.
got in on the act too.
Oh my God.
Was
And-
Julie,
Wait.
was she
Yeah.
regressed therapeutically?
Did she have a therapist too? Did
You
the
know, I
prophet
don't
just
know.
go, you know what? You should get checked out too.
Yeah.
Because, like,
Yeah, I don't know. To be honest, it
By the
doesn't
way,
say.
you have a sister? Yes, she was too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll get into some of that too. But so his boss tells him, obviously, because they're with the sheriff's department, there's been this allegation against you. And so they talk for a while. So then Paul was arrested and
Wow.
interrogated by his fellow police officers. He was, pretty churchy guy too. He went to the Church of Living Water. I mean, they were a religious family,
girl, that don't
clearly.
make no sense.
But here were the 2 of the concepts taught to people at the Church of Living Water. That Satan can cause a person to commit terrible acts and then wipe their memory clean afterwards,
Oh my God.
so they don't remember it.
It's the Men in Black.
And that any memories that he recovered would be accurate. God would prevent him from recovering false memories.
That just sounds like,
That's very specific.
yeah.
That sounds like he had a side business as a recovered memory
Literally,
specialist.
that's what I was
Christian
Christian say.
psychotherapist.
And
That's what
By
a
the way, if he was a
grifter would
plumber,
say.
God said, please get your pipe fixed every year, even if you don't need them. I'm a dentist. Please, God said, get your teeth cleaned let's go 3 months.
well, and see, we know how a lot of times police interrogations work and what the tactics they use, especially when we did our false confessions episode. So over time, using sleep deprivation and interview techniques verging on hypnosis, Paul Ingram was convinced
What the
that
fuck?
he had also repressed memories of abusing his daughters and that he suffered from something like multiple personality disorder. Wow. So like he had a personality that was doing these things
So one of them was
to
an
his
abuser.
children.
And
Yeah.
one of them was Satan.
He also believed that he raised his daughters to always tell the truth. So if he had done his proper job as a good father, then his daughters can't be lying about this
Good Lord.
because he taught his daughters never to lie.
My daughters don't lie, so I guess I abused them. That's it's a tough choice there, buddy.
He figured that he must be guilty and that Satan wiped the memory from his mind. So here's the thing. What wouldn't Satan want you to remember if you're a good religious God-fearing person?
There are lots of things.
Satan would want you to
But
be
that is one of
racked
them,
with
yes.
guilt, right?
Yes,
For the rest
I
of
would
your
think
life.
so.
Probably.
That's the kind of thing Satan would do, yes.
But so literally, By the end of that day, the day he first found out about this, he confessed.
Jeez.
He thought that he had done these terrible crimes, but he still maintained that he didn't have any memory of doing them.
Yeah.
But they just convinced him, you must have done it. You just don't remember it. So at various times during this interrogation, he did recover images of killing a cat and murdering a prostitute.
What the hell?
Who hasn't? But
Let me
usually
just-
remember.
Slip that in there.
Yeah, so over time,
Jeez.
the daughters also remembered, and I'm saying remembered in quotes,
Always throughout this entire episode.
that their mother, Sandy, had also, well, not that she abused them, but she just kind of passively let it happen. Erica, the older daughter, recalled details of satanic ceremonies, which they always do,
Yeah.
where 6 to 8 month old babies or fetuses were sacrificed.
Oh my God.
She believed that she had been at 850 satanic rituals
Erica.
Jesus.
that included about 25 infant sacrifices.
Combined or each?
No,
No,
combined.
Okay.
Oh,
So
yeah.
25 babies were killed and eaten.
Yep. No, I didn't say they were eaten.
Whoa,
they
who said
They
eaten?
probably were.
They were
It's
sacrificed.
the kind of thing Saint would do, so let's assume.
Well, she remembered being forced to have sex with animals,
Oh my God.
and her mother actually joined in on those ones. She remembered becoming pregnant, being tied down, and having to have an abortion with a coat hanger. She recovered a memory of watching, oh, here we go, Dean, you were right. The Satanists chop up the fetus and eat it.
See? I knew it.
Oopsie.
I knew that. It's a trope. That's
Yeah.
It's going to end up somewhere in the story.
Baby eating Satanists.
Even though she said she remembered being in about 1,000 rituals or so, she couldn't remember any of the satanic chants.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate.
Boom.
And she was questioned about other details, and she couldn't remember other details about the rituals, but,
Like who was in them?
yeah. Like things like, were you sitting down? Were you standing up?
What
Were you-
babies were
Regress me
killed,
again.
bitch?
Regress me again. I'll remember. Yeah, that's convenient because obviously the more details you quote unquote remember, the more details you can trip up on. So
Yeah. Julie also remembered that she was forced to have an abortion after becoming pregnant. They also claimed that they had scars all over their bodies from years of abuse. And that, like Julie said at school, she could never change in the locker room at school because she was embarrassed.
she saw Carrie.
And she always wore a T-shirt over her bathing suit because she didn't want anybody to see her scars.
And they checked those and they found
No scars.
no scars whatsoever
on either of them.
Yeah.
Also, no evidence of abortions. Only Erica had a small scar, but she had had an operation.
Oh my God.
See there, you had appendicitis. didn't you?
Literally.
Yeah. They also accused their father's poker buddies of
Lord.
abusing them as well. One of them, his name was Jim Raby, and she couldn't remember, or she didn't recall seeing any scars or tattoos on his body, but he has it's like a 3-inch wide rope-like large red scar across his chest from like an electrical shock that was like real bad that almost killed him. And she didn't recall that massive scar on his
Yeah,
chest.
those guys were not as mentally suggestible as Paul Ingram was. So they're not going, oh, I guess I did it. They're going, you're lying.
Although,
What?
who says he took his shirt off when he was abusing her?
Okay.
I mean, you know.
I was talking about, they all denied it.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So Julie had told their mother that their father's abuse had ended 5 years earlier, but then they were told what the statute of limitations
Oh, my
was
God.
in Washington, and then she changed her story and that it was only 3 years earlier that it stopped.
See, the motivation here is
God.
weird. It's almost like the therapist. I mean, I know we'll get into it with how this is directed. This is undoubtedly directed by the therapist more so than the kids.
Yeah.
I strongly suspect they almost always are. But why would they do that? It's like they want to
Yeah.
put this guy in jail.
Yeah.
And I mean,
But that's
Satanic
weird.
panic. I mean, this is the height of it, right? The
but
late
you know, where
80s.
did that? I know, but the therapist. I mean, it became satanic panic became and hypnotic regression. It became a cottage industry for therapists. It became a big moneymaker. It became
Yeah.
essentially just a source of business. In this, but you can do that without being that specific and almost seeming really with malice aforethought.
Yeah.
You want to put
Yeah.
this
Well,
guy in
especially
jail.
changing your story,
Changing the
yeah.
story to fit the legal
Well,
facts
yeah.
or, the legal needs of the case. That's a little
Well, and
scary.
the changing of the stories, I don't know, you would think would be a huge red flag to any prosecutor.
Sane, rational,
Yeah.
honest person, of course.
Erica originally said that the abuse ended in 1975,
Oh my gosh.
which would have been way sooner.
Way.
But then at another time, she told him she had caught that STD from her father in 1987.
is
So
a year
I mean,
before.
those are just her stories don't ever line up.
Yeah,
See,
she's
it's
just
easy-
talking.
Yeah, but it's easy to claim, well, I forgot everything. So,
Yeah.
but if you recover fact A and then later recover fact B, and fact B contradicts fact A, then I don't care if you
Yeah.
quote unquote recover memory. It's still a red flag that you're not being truthful.
Well, the girls drew maps of their backyard where they remembered, all those sacrificed babies
Yeah.
being buried.
Oh my God.
They
Then went to the baby grocery store.
they excavated the yard, but there was nothing. No
No
evidence.
babies.
Nope.
Yeah.
No evidence of bodies or even of disturbed earth.
That was one of the things that was an obvious red flag from the beginning from all these satanic things where they killed a lot of people that couldn't be accounted for missing people. There weren't 25 missing babies
Yeah.
in the Olympia area from which the satanic cult or ring could have,
And
gotten
also,
their food.
here's the thing: if the satanic cult members are impregnating their teenage daughters and forcing them to have abortions,
Yeah.
let them have the babies, and then
Yeah.
there's your babies to
Whoa.
sacrifice.
There you
Sounds
go.
like mom
Good.
wants a baby farm.
It does sound a little disturbing there for a second.
No, I mean their actions, what they're accusing them of, they just don't
Yeah.
make sense.
Yeah. Come on, Erica. Julie, get your
Yep.
fucking story
Well,
straight.
so they brought in a forensic archaeologist, and when they excavated the backyard,
Okay.
and his name was Dr. Mark Papworth. He said there was no evidence, nothing at all, and the sheriff, the undersheriff, said to him when he told him there was no evidence, nothing at all. He said, "If you were the devil, would you leave any evidence?"
The undersheriff said that?
Yes.
So law enforcement here is just as culpable.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're believing a clearly nonsensical, internally inconsistent story from incredibly unreliable witnesses in a massively unreliable technique. I guess it was in 1988. It wasn't general knowledge. I don't know if it's even general knowledge now how completely nonsense hypnotic
It's
regression
split
is.
now.
It's not split.
Back then, it was believe the children.
Yeah, okay.
Children don't lie, right?
But I mean specific to repressed memories, and I guess it is kind of split, isn't it?
Yeah.
But in terms of the research, it's not split at all.
Yeah.
There's no such thing. It doesn't exist. It's complete fiction.
Well,
Always
and
has been.
we'll talk about it a little bit later, but and you and I have talked about this. It's really the difference between clinical
Yes.
psychologists and researchers versus
Actual scientists versus,
therapists.
who can be anybody who has a vibe and wants to has $70 to send to a diploma mill to call themselves a therapist. There's literally no regulation on therapists whatsoever. Some are fantastic, I'm sure. Some are very helpful. Some are very conscientious. Some are well educated, but you have no way of knowing that, and thousands of them are complete frauds.
And we'll talk about this later.
Okay.
So this forensic archaeologist said at that time, when the sheriff asked him if he was the devil, if he would leave any evidence, he said his hair stood on end, and he realized that
This
there
guy's
was
done.
no
Yeah.
talking to him. There was,
Yeah.
so he just left.
I mean, that's the classic. We were talking about that a while back in the COVID conspiracies. That's the classic is non-falsifiable, right? If you find evidence of the
Yeah.
babies, they're guilty. If you don't find evidence of the babies, they're guilty
Yeah.
because the devil wouldn't leave evidence. You can't prove it wrong.
The
Yeah.
Salem witch trials.
This does sound very Salem witch trial. I was just thinking that
Yes.
the way it expanded to other people and
Yeah.
started including more and more
Ooh.
people.
Yeah.
He's the Giles Corey.
Yeah.
Honestly,
The guy who got pressed.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Ugh.
but I mean, but remember those girls did the same thing. They started talking
Yeah.
about just a couple people in Tituba, whatever, and then they started
Tituba,
including more people in town,
Mangoro.
and it just they were empowered. It sounds like these two sisters were in a sick sense empowered. So, well, I guess we'll talk about it later. But I still think therapists are largely responsible and guide these fictitious repressed memories, but there is some cooperation from the so-called witnesses in many cases as well. They do.
I mean, there
sometimes-
has to be.
There has to be.
Yeah.
I think in a lot of cases, there's some degree of culpability there, whether
Yeah.
it's little or
One-
sometimes a lot.
That goes as far as this.
Yeah.
Well, so Paul
Ouch.
Ingram, the dad, confessed to cutting the bleeding heart out of a live cat,
What the fuck?
killing the prostitute that I mentioned earlier in Seattle in 1983.
Yeah.
And he also believed he was involved in the Green River killings.
He's being hypnotically regressed as well, isn't he?
Yes.
He's recovering these memories through this quote unquote therapist
Yep.
as well.
What the
And
hell?
I don't know if it's the same.
Are you gonna talk
I
about-
don't know if it's the same person.
You
Do
talk
we
about-
know who it was? Like
No,
Ah.
I don't think so.
It probably wasn't, but it doesn't matter.
Doesn't
you know
matter.
what I mean?
No.
If,
True.
if
Yeah.
if you are a therapist in 1988 who is hypnotically regressing people to recover memories, you're going to recover memories. And no matter how conscientious you were going to manipulate those memories. And some were flat out forcing those fake memories. We're going to talk about false memory, I'm assuming, later on, right? Okay.
Yeah. And so there was a Green River Task Force. I mean, the Green
Yeah.
River Killer was a big deal.
Yeah.
And they looked at his statement, and there was nothing that he said matched the actual facts of the Green River Killers.
It's amazing how many red flags to any law enforcement right now, how obvious this should be to any rational. Regardless, you could even believe in recovered memories back then and still realize the
Yeah.
story is nonsense.
Yeah.
There's no, I mean, and I know how it ends up, and that's just pissing me off so
Yeah, I
much right
know.
now.
Well, so the prosecution hired Dr. Richard Offshee to help them with the case
Oh, yeah.
because it involved recovered memories and all that kind of stuff. Dr. Offshee is a world-class memory researcher, and he's also a specialist in the tactics of coercion. And
They hired the wrong guy.
exactly, he
didn't
actually
know.
he studied the Chinese communist brainwashing techniques and recruitment methods for political groups and religious sects. So he knew what he was talking about.
So I wonder, I mean, clearly from the prosecution's standpoint, I'm not kidding, they truly hired the wrong
Yeah.
person. He was
Yeah.
a scholar and knew what he was doing and was independent. And usually
Yeah.
when they have expert witnesses, both sides, let's be honest, both sides hire someone who's going to tell them, who's going to say what they want to be said.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he obviously very quickly began to suspect that Ingram was delusional. So he designed a test. He confirmed with Ingram's son and 2 daughters that their father had never forced them to have sex with each other. So then he went and he asked their father whether he had ever done that. He also denied it, Paul, because he hadn't. Then he asked him to go back to his cell and think about it. And so Paul Ingram went back to his cell.
So it was
Thought about it.
The suggestion was as simple as just think about it.
Just ask the question. Yeah.
Ask the question.
Just asking the question and then tell him to think about it. They said that Paul entered a trance-like state, and then he generated a detailed scenario about how he might have forced his children to have sex with each other, composed a multi-page confession, and signed it.
By the way, explicit warning for this episode. I'm going to say that now. We should have said it about 20-something minutes ago. But
So he came to the conclusion that Paul Ingram's memories were not real memories. When he described one of the abuse scenes, the interrogator asked him what time the rape took place. In Paul's mind, he said he zeroed in on one of the perpetrator's arms and read the time on his watch.
Oh my God.
And that's just not the way memories work.
That's
You
literally.
can't.
they don't have
Brady Bunch
cameras.
movie.
You don't
It's-
have multiple angles.
It's not like watching a video either.
Yeah.
So I mean, think about any
I see. So
any
he's-
event in your life,
Yeah.
and can you where there might be a clock on the wall?
Yeah.
Can you
No.
like?
Let me change the angle. Okay, close up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, 8:34.
Enhance.
Yeah, you can't do that. That's
Jesus.
not the way memories work.
I thought you meant he what
I-
time was it? And he looked at the guy's watch and said 10:38.
Oh no.
Like Jan does in the fucking Brady Bunch movie. What's your boyfriend's name? George Glass.
Okay, I would have gone with The Usual Suspects, but okay.
No, I hate that. Kevin Spacey's
Love
canceled.
that. Still a great movie.
But Jan is not.
I suppose.
Well, and so I think they did in other satanic ritual abuse cases when they prosecuted Paul. They decided just to ignore all of the satanic weird shit about
Yeah.
sacrificing infants and all
Now,
that kind of stuff.
Now, is that legal? Don't you have to tell discovery? Right? Will you have to
I would
give
think so.
I mean, isn't that?
Not if it's not part of their case, right? If they're not,
God.
if they're just charging him with rape,
I see.
of his daughters,
So not baby
then,
eating,
yeah,
so they don't
then
have to tell
no.
the defense.
Yeah.
Oh, but by the way, they also said there's a whole lot of baby eating going on.
But we've talked about this
Yeah.
in other cases. Like, couldn't the defense then say, well, yeah, but she accused my client of rape, but she also accused him of infant
Yeah.
Not if they
sacrifice.
don't know,
And
right? It sounds like the defense did not know that.
no, I'm sure they know about it because
Why?
they questioned him about it. And
The prosecution questioned
And-
Paul Ingram about it. He's telling the prosecution that. Now, he's not telling his own lawyer that, as far as, right? You haven't said that he has.
I don't know. Yeah,
Doesn't sound like it. From what I've heard so far, he's telling the prosecution and the prosecution's therapist all these terrible things he's done.
well,
Right.
and in fact, in this case, like I said, this was the first known case where he pled guilty.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
Oh.
sure he had a lawyer, but he didn't want to put his daughters through the pain of a trial.
Yeah. Wow.
I know.
So even if his lawyer did do it, he goes, I don't care. Don't bring it up because I won't let you. So I'm plead guilty.
Yeah, probably.
God.
I mean, he was convinced that he must have abused them as they described, even though his own memories were obviously unclear.
Yeah.
That is so.
And, he didn't want to force them to have to go through a trial.
Sounds like if there had been a trial, I would hope he'd not even come close to being convicted. I wonder if even they would have prosecuted if they had forced a trial. I wonder.
I don't
Because
know.
their evidence was so
Yeah.
atrocious, and the
Stupid,
stories were
yeah.
so conflicting and so
Yeah.
unlikely and clearly untrue that I wonder if there would be a lot of worry. In other words, they probably had much less leverage than Paul Ingram thought they did. Or, like you said, Paul Ingram was he wanted to confess.
he just believed it. And I'm sure he just felt horrible about it and was still trying to protect his daughters because he probably was a good father.
Ironically.
Yeah. So, and the prosecution was just so proud that,
Sure they were. See, that's another thing, though.
Because-
Just because this guy wants to confess, the job of you always see it in some. Well, you don't always see it, but a lot of times in movies, it's like, oh, now we have to prove he did it. A
Right.
confession's not enough. Okay,
Yeah.
you all the evidence you've gathered has proved he did not do it, could not have done it.
Yeah.
And you still take that plea. That's prosecutorial misconduct.
yeah.
That's
Well,
despicable. They had to know this guy, even if they're, again, like I said, even if they absolutely believe the method to elicit the so-called evidence, the story itself had to be utterly ridiculous. to them.
Yeah, because they still
If
didn't
some
find any
crazy
evidence.
guy says,
Yeah.
I came in and killed Kennedy, and he has this nutcase story that's internally inconsistent and contradictory, no one tries to put this guy in jail.
Right. And I wonder how they reconciled the stories that the daughters told that they knew to not be true.
Yeah. Well, I know.
With
Psychologically?
Yeah.
Psychologically, cognitive
Yeah.
dissonance, right? They told themselves they're doing good work, and so you self-justify what you're doing, and then confirmation bias takes over, and maybe they misremembered some things, but they didn't misremember the key things, and those we were prosecuting him for, and he did rape them, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And since because no one will say I'm a sleazy prosecutor who is going to put an innocent man in jail. I'm a good person. I do good work. I put bad people in jail. These girls say he's a bad person. I'm going to overlook all the
weirdness.
the weirdness, and the evidence that they're not telling the truth.
Which is
I'm not excusing it.
Yeah.
It's still shameful and incompetent, but it certainly is a reason.
explainable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, his two
Chilling.
poker friends, they actually spent 158 days in jail
Jesus.
until the charges were dropped against them.
See, notice that. They had whatever evidence they had against Paul Ingram. They had similar type of evidence, two people's stories against these two guys, but they knew those guys I'm going to fight you and get a lawyer, and so they dropped that.
Yep. Well, the reason why law enforcement did not agree that they were not guilty, they just said that the girls were too traumatized to testify.
Bullshit.
So these two men, Jim Raby, his business went bankrupt. He was a lobbyist for law enforcement.
Jeez.
The other guy, Ray Risch, I think he had something to do with like an auto mechanic or something, but also for like the sheriff's department or something. So I don't know enough to say that their lives were ruined, but I think a lot of people still believed they were guilty.
Yeah. Because, like I said, would not let them go because they're innocent. Would
Exactly.
Let them go because,
Yep.
God, Lord.
Yep. So by the time Dr. Offshee issued his report, that he basically said, in his opinion, all of Paul's memories were false. It was 1989 by this time, and he convinced Paul Ingram that his memories were false.
Wouldn't I guess you're right, never mind, because I was thinking the same thing. They would in discovery Richard Offshe's report, I'm assuming would have been discoverable and would have been a gold mine for a defense attorney to get Paul Ingram off from something he didn't do. But again,
he had already pled guilty.
pled guilty. Okay.
And so by the time he comes around and Dr. Offshee convinces him that, oh, I didn't do this, he tried to retract his guilty plea and change it, and Washington law wouldn't let him.
That's the hugest. That's the big problem is that
That makes
there
no
are
sense.
coerced and false confessions all the time, a shockingly high number of them. But once you do that thing, once you finally give in after whatever hours or days of coercive and manipulative interrogation, once you give up and say, "Fine, I did it," it's over.
Yeah.
No takesy backsies.
Yeah.
I mean, you said no 147 times. You say yes once, you're done.
Yep.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, I know. And also in the movies and on TV, they always make it seem like the judge is really making sure that person believes they're guilty and understands what they're doing.
Yeah.
And
Well, they probably do. I mean, probably ask perfunctory questions.
Yeah.
Do you understand the charges against you? Whatever. I'm sure they do that.
yeah, I don't know.
But if you're there to plead guilty, that you plead guilty. Remember,
Yeah.
so he had already pled guilty and was already in prison when he decided
He
talked
must
to
have
Richard
been.
Offsee. Yeah.
He must have been.
Yeah.
So he was sentenced to 20 years in prison, which, I don't know what would have happened if
As a cop,
if he
mind
had
you.
gone to trial as a cop.
And a child molester.
And a child molester. I mean,
Uh-huh.
those are some hard ass years.
He's-
He
Well-
had to have been in.
Dead.
Well, no, he had to have been in protective custody.
They
I
sent
imagine.
him. This was in Washington State. They sent him to prison in Delaware
Oh my
on the hope
God.
that they wouldn't know he's a cop
for
and child
that
molester?
reason.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
It's going to be like Yolanda in Texas. They should be in solitary confinement so people don't kill her for revenge.
Yeah.
Who?
The lady who killed Selena.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he tried.
You just had to say Yolanda and thought we know who you're talking about.
I don't know.
Yolanda
Mom
who killed
did.
Selena. Okay.
She got it.
When you said Texas,
Okay.
he, would go up for parole and stuff, and he would have all these people testifying on his behalf that they didn't believe he'd done it and all that kind of stuff, and he never got any kind of early release. They actually, even, I think they even petitioned the governor for a pardon. And
I would have pardoned him. I mean,
Yeah,
Okay, so
couldn't
this
get
is now.
anything.
I mean, we're well into the 2000s. We now, by the mid 90s, science knew that these techniques were nonsense. I don't know when that permeated into the general consciousness that they were complete bullshit. These repressed members, things like that.
If it has.
It still hasn't fully yet. I bet you. I don't know. I would love to see a poll. Americans, do you believe repressed members are real? I'm sure a majority would still say yes.
I would say
even
that
though they're
too.
Yeah.
Again, listeners, I've heavily researched this.
Yeah.
Real science shows that experimental science and any expert, any clinical psychologist in the field understands that repressed members are complete and utter bullshit. We talked about multiple personality a while back, and multiple personality has virtually no support anymore in the actual clinical psychological world whatsoever. It is still in that official book or whatever that psychology has, where it's a thing, it's dissociative disorder, but it's not considered viable by actual clinical psychologists for the most part. But in this case, early 2000s, let's say he's gone up for parole. I mean, a lawyer could have educated the parole board on the nonsense of these methods. By the mid to late 90s, a lawyer could have told them, well, hey, maybe you don't know, but here's some evidence that these techniques are nonsense.
They tried.
Free my client.
They tried to do that. And in fact, in 1996, he was up for parole. And I know you've heard of Dr. Elizabeth Loftus.
Sure have.
She's a researcher, Dr. Offshee, and a journalist who wrote a book about this case. His name is Lawrence Wright. And then the sheriff of Thurston County, they all testified. And the 5-member panel, 2 voted against parole, 1 voted for parole, and 1 person abstained. So,
That's 4. What happened? And
yeah.
one
Oh, no.
disappeared.
The chairperson of the parole board wouldn't say how she voted.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
my
Oh, so
God.
she voted against parole.
Yeah.
What a scumbag.
Yeah. So his time in prison, he spent it teaching literacy to other prisoners and revamping their computer systems.
Taught himself a useful skill after
Yep.
20 hard, horrific
Well,
years.
he wasn't in prison for 20 whole years.
Oh,
He got
it was
out
pretty close though, wasn't it?
He got out in 2003.
2003, so
When did he
about
get-
15 years.
Wow.
Yeah, which I'm assuming,
That's
you know,
sickening.
probably don't you get time off for good behavior
Probably.
or, you know.
Yeah.
So
Although in
'cause-
federal, he would have had to serve longer, but he's under state
Yeah.
jurisdiction.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
That's 15 years for something from the outset
Mm-hmm.
should have been obvious to any thinking human being that was not true.
Yeah. And so when he was released, you know, he was a registered sex offender. And I guess there's different levels. And so they referred to him as the most dangerous kind of sex offender, level 3, that they believed he was not amenable to treatment. And he would be supervised by the Department of Corrections for a year. And because of his history, they considered him of high risk to reoffend, which is ridiculous.
That's
What?
insane.
Why you would think
So
that.
that's now 2003. Again, there's just no excuse not to know better.
And people in the community still, you know, a lot of them believed he was guilty, that he had done it.
Is
And
that? I mean, the sad thing is that whole thing. It's kind of like the Me Too movement is going that. They now always believe the woman, but you have people who are telling lies, and it poisons all the other people who are being honest, and that's it's almost like a double crime for people who lie about things like that. It makes it harder for the next person telling the truth to tell the truth, or to be believed that they're telling the truth, and that's what happened. The kids that were telling the truth about abuse. It's harder. You can't automatically believe them because there are so many out there who weren't telling the truth. No, I mean you can't have this default believe them because
Of course, yeah.
you can't, and at least not if you're trying to get at the truth.
yeah. Well, and you and I have talked about this, and you have told me things about kids, and I mean,
What? I don't like how that sounded.
research into
Research has shown unequivocally that not just some, but the majority of specific to repressed memories, things like that, those kinds of things specifically to that. So that subset of abuse, just to be clear.
Yeah.
But for that repressed memory kind of abuse, virtually all of them are
well, no,
true.
not even with repressed memory. Like with kids, you just ask them
Oh,
a
yeah,
question.
yeah.
They'll
Yes.
say outrageous things that the adults in their lives interpret to being
Yes.
meaning they were abused.
The
and-
McMartin case is a classic example. Those people, for the most part, those kids, I think some kids were eventually regressed, but for the most part, they told things that weren't true.
Yeah, but
under
not even
police
that,
interrogation.
because that sprang out of a kid who had a rash or something.
Yes.
And the mom made up stories. The kid didn't. I'm talking about kids
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
spontaneously saying something strange
Yes.
and
yes.
parents becoming alarmed. And
The case was, there was a case where it was under a controlled experiment, as a matter of fact, oddly enough. So everything was videotaped, and they had a psychologist talk to they used those anatomically correct dolls, which again, research has shown as complete nonsense. Those that serve no useful purpose. There was never any science behind it. They're made up by just some twit.
Some creepy people.
Really creepy woman. And
well,
what?
it sounds like a good idea.
It's not.
It's logical.
It's not, though. It's not. It doesn't elicit the truth. If that's what your goal, which it should be, it doesn't elicit. It's been
understand
shown
that.
experimentally. Those anatomically correct dolls are nonsense.
It
I'm
seems
sorry,
really
Carrie.
creepy to me.
It's just true.
As a
You give me a
concept.
face, and
no, I
it's
understand that that's
unequivocal.
true. But if I had said,
Yes.
this is a great idea to get kids to be
I
able to
see.
point to something, blah, 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 so that we can talk to kids
Okay,
about things.
but before you
it
put people in
sounds
jail
like a
as
great
child molesters,
idea.
you should know if it's a good idea or not.
Yeah.
And they did not.
That's true.
They were not tested in any way, shape, or form. They were just used, and people had lives ruined because of that. So anyway, this case with the child was using the doll, started pounding an object onto the vagina of the doll, and she was a girl. And in front of her parents when she went home. And the parents said, "Why are you doing this?" Because that's what the doctor did to me today. The psychologist did that to me today in the session, whatever. She didn't use the word session. But and the parents saying, "Oh, Dr. blah 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 is a very nice person. He would never do something like that." She said, "No, he absolutely did it." And roll tape, nothing of that ever happened. So it wasn't even coercion. It's just kids can't tell the difference between reality and until they're about 5 years old, and
Or they don't even know what they're saying.
They don't have any idea. It's just interesting. You see an anatomically correct doll. That's interesting. Certain parts of it are more interesting than others, just because they're natural human curiosity. And so a lot of those sexual abuse cases started from things like that, where there wasn't videotape to go check and see that it wasn't true.
Yeah. I know. So that's scary.
Frightening.
Thank God our kids never said anything weird.
So the Paul Ingram
we said
case,
weird shit.
I know.
It's just you guys
Well,
didn't freak out and think anybody molested us because of it.
Well, you were speaking to dead worms,
Yeah.
telepathically. So that
Okay.
was. Don't think that didn't scare us, because it did, but still.
Sheesh. Okay, well, so now we know what happened to poor Paul Ingram.
Yeah.
And actually, even at one point, they got the mom and one of the adult sons in on it too, making claims. And in fact, one of the adult sons, like the police were interrogating him, trying to get him to basically more forcefully corroborate his sister's stories, and basically said, well, you could probably get a lawsuit out of this. You could sue and get a nice car. And the son said, I already have a nice car. And the cop said, yeah, but is it a BMW?
Oh my God.
So, yeah.
That's that. I mean,
none of that should be legal or.
You shouldn't have a career in law enforcement.
Exactly.
If that's your tactic.
Yep. So anyway, yeah. So the other kids at various times in this thing were telling their own stories and denying it.
Well, why wasn't the mom sent to prison? What about the whole satanic ring? 25 babies were eaten, and they didn't lift a finger to go solve those murders? That's just bad police work.
Well, that's why they had to pick their battles.
No.
They couldn't.
If 25 babies were killed in your jurisdiction, you wouldn't do anything about it. Because you have to pick your battles, seriously.
No. In prosecuting, I'm assuming they didn't believe that because they found no evidence of that.
Yes, which means
I
should lead to
know.
the obvious conclusion
That
if
the
they're
rest of
lying
it's
about
also
this,
bullshit.
maybe they're lying about the rest.
I understand
Which, of
that.
course,
But
So what that tells me is well, I don't know. Again, I go back to cognitive dissonance. They must have convinced themselves that they were doing God's work and doing good things. So
Pride is
therefore,
strong.
some were lies and some weren't. And
it didn't take much for Paul to believe that he did it and confess and say he did it. So,
but I feel like if Paul had not confessed, they still would have gone after him.
I'm sure they would have. Yeah.
And again, if you step back and be rational, in this case, law enforcement, you should have known this was not true.
And maybe if he hadn't confessed, then he would have gotten a good lawyer, and they would have been able to.
Life would have been ruined, though.
Yeah,
no question
I'm sure
about
it would have been. So now we're going to talk about recovered memories and all that kind of stuff. And like we already hinted on, the clearest divide is between mental health practitioners, the therapists who see patients, and researchers. So clinicians have a greater tendency to believe that people repress their memories and they can be recovered in therapy than obviously researchers do. So the general public too, I think, pretty much believe in repressed memories.
Mm-hmm. Did you get any polling data or anything like that?
No.
There must be some.
I don't know.
I have to think there's some.
Yeah.
Somebody's asked that question.
I don't know.
Maybe not very good, comprehensive
suppose.
polling data.
So some people believe.
Anecdotally, it seems like people believe it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm absolutely sure that it's completely permeated our media since the 70s. If you go back to multiple personality disorder, which is a form of that kind of nonsense, that started with a lot of that were so-called repressed memories.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just been drilled into us. We've grown up with it. You have to really research. I don't blame people for not knowing better. You have no reason to. You have to be interested and research it and find out the truth. Otherwise, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you think it's true? It sure seems like it's true. You know what I mean? In the media and in the world around you, it's treated as true every time you hear about it usually.
Well, we talked about how memory isn't like a tape recorder. You can't just go back and look at it. And we process memories and remember them and store memories in different ways. And most of us have some slightly traumatic experiences, and most of us remember those, right?
Yeah.
Like say you're like a kid and you got lost in a store. Rachel remembers the time she got lost in Costco like it happened yesterday.
Jack remembers when he got lost in the movie theater and came running after the wrong man and got up to him.
Yeah.
It
And
wasn't me.
You probably remember that with a lot of detail.
I do.
Yeah.
It was like 4, maybe?
I remember that.
Yes.
5
Vivid
max.
detail.
Yeah.
You were like 3 feet ahead of me, and you just started sprinting with a terrified look in your face and caught up to some strange dude.
Yeah.
Hey,
And
I
like,
didn't
you
know
turned
where
around
you
like,
were.
what do you want?
Yeah. Well, and
3
so
feet behind you is what it was. Turn around, God.
well,
I guarantee you that's an exaggeration.
I
guys.
swear to God, you're right in front of us.
We're just talking about that. Memory's not a fucking tape recorder, so I
That's
don't
true,
believe
but in
you.
this case.
Well, so what researchers have learned is that moderate trauma can enhance long-term memory.
That makes a lot of sense
And
to me.
this is common sense that,
Yeah.
that we remember this.
Yeah.
And so it makes it kind of hard to understand how do you forget?
Not hard to
Horrible
understand.
things.
The logical
Hard to
conclusion is you do
believe.
not forget.
Yeah.
You
Well-
never forget horrible things.
kinda do the opposite.
I'm reading the. Well, go ahead.
That was moderate trauma.
Oh, okay.
Extreme trauma can disrupt long-term memory storage.
Really?
And it can leave memories stored as emotions or sensations rather than memories. So obviously they're still there.
Yeah.
And
Not
they-
always, I'm sure. Just sometimes. I
Yes.
imagine.
Oh, yes, of course.
Obviously, probably a
Generalization.
Yes.
small number of times.
And-
or proportion.
Research suggests that it can take up to several days to fully store a memory in your long-term or an event in your long-term memory. And so then things, when you and I talked about this before, things can trigger those memories because it's sensory and emotional.
Yeah.
So it's an emotional movie or a smell or something like that.
Sounds like PTSD.
It kind of is. It is.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds
basically.
like the basis of PTSD.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, traumatic events is the opposite. The
Yes.
problem for a real psychologist is to get the patient to get over those memories and to process and control those memories, not to
Yeah.
remember those memories. Those are the things that stay with you, not the things that you put in a little bit. That's the whole idea of the repressed memory had this it was an old way of thinking about the memory. Like I said, you think about the memory as like it's a videotape, and that's just not true. We know that now. So the thought was that you could just store it somewhere else, like a library, like a microfiche file, and the site that brilliant therapist would go and find that file and bring it out. And that's just not how memories work. And what they also didn't know is how insanely, are you going to talk about how crazy suggestible and manipulable human memories are? Not for the mentally weak or something like that, for every
Everybody.
single person
Yeah.
on the planet.
Yeah.
We all have false memories, or wrong memories, or distorted memories constantly
Yeah.
about almost everything.
Yep. And they have done research into it, and they use real people, and they have been able to create
Yeah.
false memories of mildly traumatic events.
Well,
Not
Richard
That does
Offsey.
not
Horrific.
sound ethical.
Richard Offsey created a false memory about a horrifically traumatic event in Paul
Yeah.
Ingram's mind
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
very easily. So some people are.
Offsheet it?
Offsheet did. Remember, he told him that about
having forcing your kids to have sex with each other.
He just asked him if if he
I'm
ever done
getting
that.
the people mixed up. Sorry.
Offsheet intentionally did that to give
prove
him
that, yeah.
a false memory that he could prove was a false memory, and then when Ingram had that quote unquote memory, he could prove, okay, he's making up fake memories
Yikes.
in his own mind.
That's unethical offsheet.
It is.
I
Well,
forgot about that.
surprisingly, a lot of these memory tests are unethical because they do them in not unethical, but of dicey.
they're
They do them
unethical.
child
They're unethical.
psychologists have looked into that, and I was reading. I'm reading a great book right now by Kel Tavris and Elliot Aronson called "Mistakes Were Made, but Not by Me," and it's about cognitive dissonance, but they delve a lot into false memories.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the exact case, but this case was dealing with 4 and 5 and 6-year-olds, and that's how we now know that until roughly age 5, kids can't
Yeah.
differentiate reality and fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
I remember reading about it thinking, okay, you've now affected these kids' memories for the rest of their lives.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
you just have.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
mean by it's a little dicey.
Well, and studies have also documented that people who live through extreme trauma can sometimes forget the trauma, and then the memory will come back later in life, usually triggered by something because it's a sensation or an emotion, and then they have flashbacks. And so then they feel like they're reliving it. And I mean, so then it's at that point, then people need therapy. So the debate is whether recovered memories are true or are they not true. Some therapists who work with trauma survivors believe that they're true because they have such extreme emotions with them. Other therapists have reported that some of their patients have recovered memories that couldn't be true, like a memory of being decapitated and stuff like that.
Wow.
Well, but in terms of having emotions, I mean, no shit.
Yeah.
You think it's true. It's a terrible, traumatic thing. Of course you're going to be
Whether or
emotional
not
about it.
it
That's not
actually
proof
is,
that it is true.
I know.
That's
Exactly.
just some sloppy thinking.
I get emotional at Spirited Away.
See?
That's not a real
It's
fucking
not. It
movie.
didn't happen. It's not a. Well, actually, maybe. Okay.
I wish.
Yeah. And so obviously, some therapists are accused of implanting memories and causing false memories in vulnerable patients by suggesting.
We know they
Whether
do. They do it all the
intentional or
time.
not.
It turns. We talked about. You talked about in the multiple personality about Sybil, and since we did that episode, I've actually read that therapist Cornelia Wilde was insanely unethical. She absolutely implanted with malice aforethought to write a book and make money.
Yeah.
Boo.
The Sybil memories. Sybil,
Come on, Cornelia.
she threatened, and when Sybil wouldn't go along with recovering these memories, she would threaten to stop prescribing her the drugs that she had her hooked on by then. She had her hooked on antipsychotics and things like that.
Yeah.
And Sybil was effectively a drug addict by then, and she would threaten to withhold her meds if she didn't go along with the latest story. And by the way, there is now an annual award in psychotherapist for research or working with memory and stuff like that. It's called the Cornelia Wilde Award. That shows you.
Are you serious?
I swear to God, that's true. So that tells you everything you know about the discipline of these therapists who believe in that kind of thing. It's think about it. It's your industry. It's how you make money. It's how many of them make lots of money. If someone attacks that and says it's not true, you either have to, again, there's where cognitive dissonance takes over. I'm going to have to change what I do for a living, or I'm going to deny. 80% of people are going to deny.
Well, you were talking about the research with children. There's one research study suggesting that false memories for mild trauma can be created in the laboratory. And so
In the lab.
Yeah.
Oh, there's countless
and
studies.
so the study,
That's scary.
they made suggestion to children that they had been lost in a shopping mall.
Ha.
And
Mildly traumatic.
yeah.
It happened to all of us.
And so kids who, parents said, oh no, my kid's never been lost in a shopping mall.
Yeah.
Later, these children really believed that they had at one point been lost in a shopping mall. They had that memory because they were a part of that research study.
I think that's one of the things that Kel Travers and Elliot Aronson write about is one of the studies.
Yeah.
But you said one study. There have been dozens of studies showing memories are easily manipulated and invented. Easily, especially in kids, but in adults too.
Yeah. So,
But in terms of the malice, I'm sure a majority of therapists are not doing it intentionally, but it's impossible not to.
Yeah.
You can't ask a question without there being an impact from that question, basically.
Priming.
Like basically what happens is that, or what was happening back then was that if you sought therapeutical help, right, you had a good chance of winding up with someone who's going to say, okay, you are repressing sexual abuse. But that other person in a different little subset of that cottage industry would say, oh, you were part of a satanic cult. Another person might say you were abducted by aliens. Seriously. And whatever their axe to grind was, that's what happened to you, the patient.
yeah.
They just watched Encounter. What is it called? Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind.
Seriously.
But none of those therapists would be considered good therapists
No.
because
Of course not,
because you're never supposed to suggest things to your patients.
But that's the thing.
They still
Some were
did.
doing, like say Cornelia Wilde was with Sybil, was flat out saying, here's what happened.
Yeah.
But
Evil
some were
baby.
doing just questioning, like the Betty and Barney Hill therapist. He was a legit, I think he was even a clinical psychologist, and he wound up not believing anything was true.
Yeah.
But he still played an unwitting role in forming what they believed. Mostly it was Betty Hill. She was a UFO enthusiast, and so she brought a lot to the table already.
Yeah.
But just asking the questions, like how do you get, let's take alien abduction. How do you possibly get to that?
I know.
Without asking the question that has to be leading and has to have some impact? Because you saw what Richard Offshee just had to suggest, just say, hey, has that horrible thing did you ever do that to your kids? not you did it.
Yeah.
One question about the possibility that it could have ever happened, and that was enough.
Yeah.
So how can you possibly get to? Have you ever seen gray-skinned men? Anybody with a big head? Anybody with how do you get to an abduction without leading the witness? It's impossible. How do you get
Well,
to child
if you-
abuse, sexual abuse, without?
If your goal is to get to a person saying they were abducted by aliens or saying they were
Say
abused,
that's not your goal. Even if that's not your goal, you suspect that they were, say, sexually abused. How do you broach that topic at all without?
Are you talking
suggesting?
about therapists,
Therapists,
or
yeah.
Yeah, the
okay?
therapists.
If you don't,
Subconsciously?
No,
But-
I mean, yeah, okay then.
I mean,
Like, I don't know.
no, you have.
I mean, I've never been in therapy.
what if
but
there's a suspicion? Say there's an external suspicion that this child has been sexually abused by a parent.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
How do you then broach that topic with that child
I have
without
no idea.
potentially? You can't.
Yeah,
You literally
there's really
cannot.
No way.
yeah, I don't know how
You can't.
how people do it.
Well, I don't think I think what happens is they literally just they have to wait for the child to volunteer the
You do.
information themselves.
You do.
For that
Yeah.
to be like admissible in court or whatever like that.
No, they
kind of
don't.
thing.
They don't.
Really?
But they should,
Oh, yeah,
but they
no,
don't.
I probably shouldn't say that. I should.
Yeah,
I should
you'd
never have
think.
faith in our court system. In other words.
I know, but I'm talking specifically about repressed, recovered memories.
Yeah, okay. That's even
in
yeah.
in
People
a
leading
genuine
into that.
therapeutic setting with an adult
Mm-hmm.
going to a therapist because let's say she has eating disorders,
Yeah.
issues. The therapist isn't supposed to suspect that,
Yeah.
we know through experience, a certain percentage of people with these eating disorders were abused as children. So
Yeah.
I'm going to ask her if she was abused as a child.
But they did.
You're not. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, sorry, they did it by the
That's not.
thousands.
But
That's
that's
bad
not.
practice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not a good therapist. That's not how you're supposed to do therapy. You're supposed to wait for the patient to.
I hope that's
Say what was
very
wrong with them.
uncommon nowadays.
Is it? Do you know?
I would think it
I suspect
is.
it's still fairly common.
I don't know.
Is my guess. Again, as we talked about a long time ago, it takes virtually no.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's almost no regulation of therapists beyond the bare bones that you can't abuse your patient and things like that. But in terms of like
yeah.
I'm qualified, there's virtually no regulation.
Which I don't. I know and you keep saying that.
It's state by state.
but
Some states have
Oh, okay.
licensing boards, most do not.
oh, okay.
And even the license, like California's not. Like if you say
Yeah.
you're a shaman and practicing Native American beliefs, you're a therapist, and there's not a goddamn thing they can do about it. I'm sorry to all shamans out there, but I'll take one even worse. Just say I practice psychic vibrations,
naturopath.
whatever, or
Yeah.
a naturopath. There's not. You're a
Okay,
therapist, and you can hang
sure,
up-
but you're not representing yourself as a psychologist
No,
to
you're a
patients.
therapist.
No, a lot of therapists call themselves psychologists?
Yeah, most
And
would
you-
just say they're a therapist.
Yeah, I think they.
And
So
that's-
you can just say you're a therapist.
Absolutely.
Because like in my
Yeah.
experience of looking at lists of therapists and stuff, it says, licensed clinical social worker.
Yeah.
Well, that might be
That's-
a
Or-
curated list of like a
Yeah,
network
that might
of
be.
Well, yeah,
therapists
it's
that are
through-
like
It probably
certified,
is.
board
Yeah.
licensed, all that.
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, they're
but
less likely to have insurance carriers carry them, but
Yeah.
there's tons of them out there.
if you looked in like the yellow pages or whatever,
Yeah.
and you looked up a therapist,
So I can just decide I want to be a
Absolutely.
therapist, and if
Yeah.
somebody's willing to pay my exorbitant hourly rate,
Absolutely.
and if
out
you
of
want to
pocket-
pay
Carrie, there are
best
pet-
therapist training to
there
give
are-
you a little certificate that
Yes.
says you're a licensed therapist.
Yep.
oh, I didn't know
I was
that.
just reading the book I'm reading. They say that you can pay $70 to a diploma
DeVry
mill,
University.
and boom, you're a therapist. And a therapist with a license to therapy from
Eek.
blah 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 fake private for-profit school.
Wow. Because I always look at
Yeah.
where they went to school, what they're.
Here's the thing, though. Even like social workers and psychologists, those folks aren't typically trained in scientific method the way a clinical psychologist
Right.
is.
Yeah.
And my bias would be go to a clinical psychologist and only a clinical psychologist.
Maybe
If-
not only.
Well, I mean, that's someone
It
who is
depends
that's someone
on
who
your
is
specific
trained
needs.
and has an understanding of the science behind what they're
But
they're
are
doing.
clinical psychologists doing therapy with patients?
Not always.
No.
They can do many
Well, then
things.
how are you going to go to one if they
Well, there
don't
are.
do therapy?
There are.
Some of them
Oh,
do.
okay.
Some
Yeah.
of them do research. Some of them do
Yeah.
Yeah.
teaching.
Yeah, so there are some, but that's the best discipline for someone who's doing therapy. I think, more so than someone who has a degree from University of Phoenix.
Yeah. Well, I would never go to a therapist. who had a degree from the
Shockingly.
university.
Unfortunately,
But even
a lot
like-
of people don't vet their therapists enough.
Yeah, they don't. And like I said,
Yeah.
just because, and even I'm sure
Surprisingly.
there are plenty, not to bag on the discipline, but there are
Yeah.
plenty with good degrees who are still, doing bad practices. Having said that, I'm sure the majority are trying to be very helpful and are trying to do right by their patients.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sure the vast majority are.
Yeah. Even us talking about memory things and false memories and false confessions and all that kind of stuff. I have often wondered, like, do I have some really
Same,
traumatic
girl.
thing in my
Any-
childhood that I can't
anytime.
Did I
remember?
repress something?
Anything that I did that you didn't like, that's a fake memory. It didn't happen. It was false. Sorry.
Not true. But we've also talked about how we remember things very differently.
Yes.
And I'm not sure. I know I have memories. I'm not sure that they actually happened. Was
Everybody
it a
listening
dream,
has had a fake memory.
or was
Oh,
it
girl,
a story
was
that
it a
I've heard
dream?
over and over again?
Yes.
Because
We have a friend
Deja vu.
famously,
Uh-oh.
this is a
I
long
was
time
just-
ago, who a group
Me
of us
too.
and a small group was talking about. We're not sure here. We think it was a baseball game, maybe it was an Angel game.
Yeah.
And that we'd all gone to it. It was something interesting happened, and we're telling this story, and she's going, "Yeah, oh my God, yeah, I totally remember that. It was great." And we're going, "Wait,"
And we're like, "You weren't
you
there."
You didn't go to this game." She absolutely, because she heard about it. She'd probably heard us tell
Yeah.
that story, regale other friends with that earlier. She just sort of. It became part of her subconscious, and she put herself in that place. I'm sure we've all done that.
So now it's known as a Kristen memory.
It's a Kristen memory.
You're having a
Hey,
Kristen
Kristen,
memory.
You're having a Kristen memory where you remember something that you weren't there at.
Yeah.
For.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that we don't remember exactly what
I
it
know.
was, but we remember her saying that.
And I 100% don't trust my memory.
Good.
So then,
Wow.
how are you guys sure that she wasn't there?
Because
Because we know.
Because
at the
everybody
time,
else who
yeah.
was there said she wasn't there, and she wasn't there.
I don't
And she knew
know.
she wasn't there.
Yeah.
After she was, after we
But
told
that
her
is
you weren't
funny
there.
how a lot of the memories of that thing we just dropped off, but we
Yeah.
fully remember the Kristen memory
Yeah.
part of it.
It is scary though. What Jack just said. How do you know we went there? I mean,
Yeah.
then you become psychotic. If you
Yeah.
just question every
It-
single memory.
It
of
does
yours.
become a slippery
It
slope.
becomes
Yeah.
like you're high when you're not high.
Or it's
And
like, what's that one? What's that one? Never mind.
it's.
Well,
But it is. Memories are. It is one. The more you know about memories, the scarier memories
Yes.
are. Because, like I said, everybody has fake memories. Everybody has distorted memories. Everybody has patchy memories.
Yeah.
And they're not nearly as reliable and trustworthy as you think they are, and they're not recalled like videotape like you think they are.
yeah.
They're just weird little. The memory stores memories and little bits of information
And-
and
yeah.
processes them in a way that's going to change what really happened.
And I know my memory definitely gets worse as I get older.
Yes.
And I just say, like, my memory is full.
Same.
I can't, it's like almost like I can't form new memories.
Well, that's
But you
not
do.
true.
But I mean, like, for specific things, like for somebody's phone number
Old
or,
dogs,
you know, I
new
can't.
tricks. You know.
No, it's true that you do remember things. You forget things as you get older, and it takes more to make that memory lasting. That's
Yeah.
true. It is almost like that your memory is full, and
not.
to
That's
do a
how
new
I
one, you have
feel.
to push something else out.
Exactly.
I think it's more just like the brain doesn't work as efficiently as
That's
it
true.
once did.
The neurons
I
are a little
don't know.
sluggish.
I'm pretty sure we're not like running out of gigabytes on
No.
our brain.
I don't know,
think
but
he's
like,
right.
I can remember every phone number I've ever had
Well, you're a savant.
going back to like 1970.
You should come with those
Yeah.
memory things.
But if somebody told me their phone number today, I would never remember.
But that's
it.
probably more. Well, that specific
'cause
situation
cell
is probably
phones.
more because of
It's because speed dial.
yeah. You can just put it in your
Seriously,
in your
that's
address
what-
book, and you
I
don't
know,
have
I know
to
what you
remember
mean. That's
it.
a bad
But
example.
I have
Yeah.
the capability
I
of
do know what you
remembering
mean.
phone numbers. I remember my next door neighbor's phone number from the
Yeah,
70s.
because you-
I
Say it, let's
remember
call
my
him.
best friend from, elementary school. I remember
Yeah.
her phone number.
Yeah.
It's just
is
weird.
weird.
And my 80-something-year-old mother remembers her childhood phone number.
Yeah.
But kids have terrible
It's just
memories, and their
weird.
brains are empty.
Kids have phenomenal memories. What are you talking about? Once they get to a certain age,
Yeah.
you guys remember ridiculous.
You guys
things
remember
that we have no
everything,
idea.
it seems like.
Super detailed things that we're like, well, okay, we knew that event may have happened.
You
but-
guys
Yeah.
probably were that same way when you was kids.
Yes,
I'm sure we were.
We were.
Yeah.
I remember thinking in high school, I know the name of every single
Oh,
person
yeah,
in
me
my high
too.
school class. Oh my God.
Wow.
In the
your
era.
whole high school class.
Yeah, my
Good
whole class.
Most
Lord.
of them, yeah.
Yeah, I think I did.
Jesus, you were a freak.
But in like, I get Facebook friend requests. And
Get the fuck are you, bro?
no clue who they are. And when I see we have 18 friends in common and they're all people we went to high school with, okay, clearly this is somebody from high school. No idea.
But you check and see if they're good looking first, right? Before you.
They're
What?
typically
unfriend
women,
them.
but okay.
Well, still.
Doesn't matter.
It's just weird. It's so strange.
Memory is terrible.
Yeah, it is.
I know.
That's the lesson of this story about
Really
the Satanic
is.
Panic.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of is, though, actually.
Yeah.
It kind of is
Yes.
the whole thing. Paul Ingram, because of manipulated false memories, spent 15 years in jail,
Yeah.
and his life was ruined, and his friend's life were harmed or ruined. And
Yeah. And
all
his
because
wife
some-
and his other children,
and
I'm
it,
sure.
and it takes that little stupid little spark of that asshole psychic at Christian camp
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
who decided she's going to meddle in someone's lives. I mean, what a just what was her name?
Prophet.
Say her name again.
I never
Dox her.
said her name.
She's
We
a
never knew her
monster.
name.
It didn't say her
Dox
name.
her.
I'm kidding. She's a,
I
I mean,
know.
she's a horrible human being.
What was her name?
She's the
Prophet designator.
Discerner.
Discerner. Prophet
Discerner.
and discerner.
Person of discernment, whatever
She's
that means.
awful. She's just horrible. There's
Yeah.
we'll probably bring it up later, but there's a famous. I think is what you're talking about. One of the most famous Satanic Panic cases in the late '80s, I think, mid to late '80s, was in New Jersey, where daycare woman was put in jail for molesting like 18 people. She spent years and years and years in jail. And almost all the students said she did these just terrible things to her. The whole thing started because the parents took their kid to see the doctor, and there was something about his butt, and he said something like no, he was getting an enema or something like that, and he said, "Oh, this is what my teacher does to me at daycare."
Oh.
Complete fiction, just a dumb little thing a kid said. From that, just a kid being a kid.
Yeah.
18 people, they started asking all the parents, and 18 kids had
Wow.
completely fake memories implanted into them for
Yeah.
some things that absolutely never happened. There was zero evidence. That there's very strong evidence that she absolutely could not have done any of those things. I mean, it became ridiculous where she was doing flying carpets and shit like
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
nothing ever happened, and her life was destroyed, obviously.
Yeah.
And so were those kids, too, for that matter. All from a stupid little throwaway line. It's shocking how often that is true in these
Yeah.
Satanic Panic cases, including this one.
Yeah. Although, we talked about the whole creating memories for these poor children, but I don't remember what case it was. Might have been the McMartin one, where later, the kids even, after they grew up, they came back and they apologized.
Yeah, the kids,
Yeah.
the kids
Because,
knew they were
yeah.
what they were forced to say were not
Yeah.
true. That's the case where actual law enforcement literally said yes, this happened, and so did the psychologist involved.
Yeah.
I want to say her name. We'll do McMartin one of these days, and we can make sure and say everybody's name that
Yeah.
did these horrible things. But they absolutely they didn't just sort of manipulate memories. They forced fake memories onto these kids knowingly with malice aforethought to prosecute this
Yeah.
case. It was disgusting what
Yeah.
happened with that case. And we were cognizant. We were adults during that happened. And what did you think, McMartin? I thought they were all guilty. These kids are all saying they were molested. The DAs bring them to trial. The police say this happened. I assumed that was all true.
Did you?
Yeah.
I remember.
I didn't
the
follow it.
evidence that's being presented.
I remember
to you.
I didn't
thinking,
follow it very
how could
closely.
this be true?
Well, I didn't
how
follow
could
it.
this be
I
happening?
didn't follow it closely enough to know that they told wild, ridiculous stories.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
They didn't. I don't
Oh, guess what?
remember.
They didn't bring those.
Those weren't included in the trial, and so
Yeah.
the daily, you'd hear it on the
Yeah.
news on the radio every day during the McMartin.
Yeah.
But
Oh, it was
but
huge.
just the thought that I wasn't convinced. I remember at the time just thinking how could a multiple, because it was the mother
Are you
and
sure,
the
Carrie, or is
grandmother
that
and
your
the
memory
child.
now because you know better and you've reformed your memory to make you seem, smarter at the time? That's people do it every day.
Whoa.
Everybody
Call
does
her
that.
out.
Yeah,
Everybody
no,
does that.
No,
I've
no.
done that. We've all done that.
It's
Or
possible.
are you did you actually call bullshit on it too back then? And
And
you're
now,
fabricating
to make
your
myself look
memory
stupider.
now. No, to fit the story.
Oh, no, I don't.
I don't-
Maybe. I don't
I'm
think so,
just
though.
being the crazy person.
But I said I
kidding.
didn't follow it that closely. But I just
Yeah.
all these kids are saying the same thing. These are monsters. These McMartin people. They're
But
horrible.
then
Put them in
as soon
jail.
as you hear-
Yeah,
I had no idea.
It just seemed pretty unlikely to me that all the adults at a daycare center were abusing all the children.
Yeah,
I don't know.
most people thought they were.
Is there a poll? Do you have a poll?
A poll.
Yeah.
No.
She wants a Gallup poll.
About what?
You
my
said
God.
most people
maybe
thought
back
they
then?
were.
Oh yeah, there were actually back then.
There
during
probably
Martin,
were,
absolutely there were.
actually.
Yeah, There was. And the DA who dropped charges against some of the people was vilified for that, against like the mother was vilified for that. And he knew full well if he didn't prosecute the remaining ones, he was toast. He would not be reelected. So he knew that the vast majority of his constituents in Los Angeles County wanted these people burned at the stake, for sure.
Yeah.
I remember that was happening.
Okay.
Well, thank you for listening to our sometimes tangential
Sometimes.
story about Paul Ingram and one of the episodes of the Satanic Panic that is in the memory, but will probably happen again in some form someday soon.
Yep.
Whoa, scary.
But true. Okay, until next time.
No, you mean another episode, not...
No, I mean, we'll have another moral panic. We have moral panics all the time. We'll have more. They just take different shapes and forms, but they happen routinely.
Oh, great.
Oh, well.
Okay.
Can't wait. All right, see you guys.
Goodbye on that note.